Good news, you're here just in time. Here's another Laneway Talks.
Good morning, Rob, and welcome to another episode of Laneway Talks. How are you?
I'm good, thanks, Vince. How are you going?
Oh, pretty good. And today we're testing our audio-visual side, which is very difficult because of the circumstances of where we're sitting, or I'm sitting anyway. So we'll see how this goes. Okay, so what I wanted to start off with today, Rob, is something that I discussed last week that I said I would bring up about venues that have been opening and closing. And I wanted to start with Adelaide, and I've got a few things here. I've got the Jama Room Sessions in Adelaide. Adelaide gets a new mid-sized performance venue, the Jama Room Sessions in Bowden. It's set up to be... Bowden, is it? It's set up to be flexible with a 240 capacity standing, 160 seated in theatre mode, multiple stage options for DJs, bands, comedy and strings. The room is attached to a well-known eatery, Jamer's Kitchen, at 18 Park Terrace, Bowden, and the Friday sessions are presented by our Kid Promotions and yada, 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 yada. Do you know about this venue?
No, I don't. I haven't heard about it.
Well, it's good news, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I mean, there's a few. What's it called?
It's called the Jamer Room. It's at the well-known eatery, Jamer's Kitchen, 18 Park Terrace, Bowden.
How do I spell it, though? Jamer.
Jaremer, 18 Park Terrace. Worth having a look at. What was that?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know where it is.
Yeah, okay. Anyway, look, it's another one.
It's just around the corner from McGov.
Is it?
Yes.
There's also another venue in Queensland that's opening up. The Bendy sets return. Now, the Mill Brewery, remember I brought up the Bendigo Hotel last week? And so I looked that up, and it's the Mill Brewery who are taking it over, and so they are locked in for August 31 for its return. And they're going to keep it as a venue also. So that's good news. Platinum Logic, the name and legacy of the Gold Coast. There's another Gold Coast one there. Then I've got facing high operating costs, including $100,000 insurance premium. Elixir Music House in Cairns is testing an idea that the music industry has been talking about as a solution to the venue crisis. That is to set up a non-profit organisation with enthusiastic gig-loving locals to help daughter, father owners, Sky Rixon and Mills run it. I don't know how it becomes not for profit. So I don't know how you would structure that. Anyway, there's another idea. There's a lot of ideas coming out. And there's special beer for the Cranker Adelaide. As the campaign continues to save the Cranker, the Crown and Anchor, from being turned into 19-storey student accommodation, which you talked about quite a few weeks ago, if I remember correctly.
I did, yes.
South Australian brewery Coopers is joining in with a special Save the Cranker beer. Proceeds of each sale of the high-quality, crisp golden lager on tap at the hotel goes to the campaign. Well, that's good.
Nothing better than a good Coop, as I always say.
Yeah, well, there you go. You never know. They might be able to save it then.
So just on that, the Cranker, your point of view, you've got a venue that's iconic here in Adelaide that's up against a major developer that's been working with the government for years to grab that piece of land and turn it into a multi-storey car park.
Yep.
What's your opinion on, is that a possibility that the Cranker is really going to survive?
Well, my opinion on that is I have a very similar situation where we have our office in Richmond. So behind us, well, right next to us used to be Sony Music, who moved into the city because they were doing some, consolidations during the pandemic. And right next to them was a vacant 2-storey building. They've been trying to develop it for about 10 years. Now, it got rejected by council. It got rejected at VCAT, Victorian Civil Arbitration Tribunal, and they were an organisation that had access to the minister. They went to the minister, who overrode the council and VCAT for a 8-storey building.
Wow. Okay.
Now, I would assume the same could happen in Adelaide and yada, yada, yada. Then you go back to your question, what do I think, could it be saved? Well, yes, it could if there's enough. So in a situation I've got here, we don't want these big buildings around us, but everybody says there's not enough accommodation. But it's going to be office blocks, by the way, not a com. And Could it be reversed? Well, I think if there was enough community response and corporate response, say in this case Coopers, I think it could be reversed. I see no reason why not. I mean, it's all political, isn't it, Rob?
Absolutely, yeah, it is. But who holds the power in the end? Is it
the minister? The minister holds the power, can override. Now, I don't know if that's the same in Adelaide. In Victoria, because we've had a very left-wing government who have basically overridden anything they want to override. There is no sense of law, and the minister, if you petition that minister as, say, a corporate, in this case here, they can overturn it, and they say it's on the grounds of being best for the economy and the people of Victoria. Well, that's funny. The council said no, and that's represented by the people, and Victorian Civil and Arbitration Tribunal said no because it doesn't fit the area. And lo and behold, we go to the minister and he said he's going to override. It's insanity. But if there was enough corporate, and in this case Coopers, I think it could be. There could be a chance of it for sure.
Okay, so that would be the Minister for the Arts that would...
No, it wouldn't be the minister. It would be the Minister for whatever it is, construction and economic development.
Ah, okay.
Right? Yeah, the ones that,
sympathetic to a pub.
Well, the ones, in this state here, they're union aligned. Yeah. We just had I don't know about you, but the CFMEU we all know about. Just had another one that came out, the HSU, Health and Safety Workers or Health and whatever Services Union, and it's been $3 million has gone missing. It just goes on and it goes on.
I wonder why.
Yeah. Anyway, Melbourne, Victoria loses 4. Long-time EDM hub, the Mercat, threw one final party before the door slammed shut. It opened in 1990, returned in 2008, set to close off in 2016 when the Judge Victoria market expansion meant it could no longer have a late-night licence, but it survived. The Palais Hepburn, set in the beautiful Hepburn Springs and regarded as one of Victoria's best regional music spaces, closed abruptly. There you go, another one. And that was a good venue. Also closing its doors was the Mallow in Ballarat Central. Ill health and badly needed renovation, cited at various times, so it's obviously needs a lot of money spent on it. And I don't know where the fourth one was, but anyway, there you go. The Carrington Hotel in Melbourne fell into liquidation after operators closed, blaming horrendous expenses, but they had been feuding with the landlord, so, internal.
Yeah.
Yep, then there's some in Canberra, and then Penny Hospitality's ownership of the General Havelock in Adelaide's Hutt Street didn't last long. It bought the 1873 music showcasing venue in 2022 with plans to put a sparkle in the precinct. It followed up with $1 million renovation. Now it's up for urgent sale.
Run out of money.
Do you know who that is? The hotel?
I do know the hotel, but I don't know who the new owner is.
Oh, no. But so you've known it. So they have bands on there, do they?
I do, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Well, that's not good. The Rosemount Hotel in Adelaide, in Hindley Street, well known for its support of live music and emerging bands with a 5am licence, is about to undergo its 4th operator in 5 years.
Yeah.
The Rosie was run by Rose family for 20 years until the death in 2019 of patriarch Rod Rose at 74. It was supposed to close in February that year. But a month later, Greg Maitland of GM Hotels Group took over the lease for 35 years and gave it a $1.5 million tart-up, with plans to invest another $2 million over the next 12 months. But COVID saw the group sell out of its property assets at that time, and the Rosie's lease went to RD Jones Group. They relinquished it in February and the venue closed. But 5 months later, building owner Duke Group is now looking for a new operator to keep it chugging along. So do you know that venue?
I do, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's my kind of news on that.
On that, there's a few other venues that are starting up over here, and there's one called Club Hideaway, which has got a lot of local Adelaide bands, the trio Montaigne, Richard Trembath, Hindsighters, Terry Bradford, which you might know that name, famous name there, Adelaide music icon. Rectifiers, Blues Casters and Ukraine Cowboys. They've got a fundraiser on the 24th. So the bands are all collectively getting together for the Club Hideaway to support the venue. And I think they're donating their time to get people in, to get more people to a new venue on that's kind of the northeast side of town. So what do you think about things like that? Like the bands are
don't you think
together?
Yeah, well, I think that's fantastic. And one of the you can see why I brought up all those venues. So, yeah, there's a few closing, but they weren't memorable venues. But the Crown and Anchor, put that aside. That's an issue. But you and me have been talking quite a lot about how all the venues are crime poor. Well, I shouldn't say all the venues. Some venues are crime poor. They need government assistance. Festivals, we need government assistance to line our pockets with more taxpayers' money. So if you listen to what we just said this morning, there's venues opening. If I listen to what you just said, there's venues opening, and with new kind of, I suppose, business techniques to make them open. You know, there's the not-for-profit there also. And therefore, venues can kind of, you know, I mean, venues obviously can operate, and they can operate on a commercial basis. I think I brought it up weeks and weeks ago about, you know, someone telling me that venues, some venues can be quite lazy and they don't know how to promote themselves with an artist in there. You know,
I think on that point, you know, Club Hideaway being a point in case, but because we're going to go up there and do a 40-minute set as well with the Grouse. If the musicians work with the pub owners or the venue owners, if the venue owners aren't really sure if there can be some sort of open communication between the two, I think together you've got the venue and you've got people that know how to put bands in. That's a positive step forward, I think, to do that, as in the bands work together with the venue owners if they want to get live music in there and actually respect what the bands are saying.
Oh, yes, yeah.
I think you've got to meet halfway there, and that can be an interesting negotiation because of, one, where the head of the venue owner is, as well as where the musicians, you know, motivations are coming from. They want gigs and they want live music and they want a venue and they want to get paid. So I think that's a positive step to do that with venues if they're struggling out there. Get together with your local musicians first and foremost and, you know, have a chat and see what they can do to support you, and then it would spread out from there.
Well, I think that great idea, and I think what's coming out a bit is the new methods to either keep a venue going or to get a venue going. And so we have new economic environments, we have new digital music environments, which I want to talk about in a minute, which lead us to situations where we have to think outside of the square, and whether it be a lot or only a bit, to get the outcome that you're looking for. Anyway, that's what I think. So another thing I wanted to talk about was I had to do some tutorials, and you know, you might find that a little bit chuckly because being at my age and, you know...
Why would I find that chuckly?
Well, because, you know, at my age and at my stage in business and whatever, you're doing tutorials. Well, I think I said it right in the beginning when we started these podcasts, is that I have to do online courses all the time. We have to keep up with new developments on the digital front. It's changing at a rate of knots, as you well know. So therefore, you just need to do tutorials on new techniques or new changes that are happening. Now, whether that be YouTube, Facebook, Meta, you know, and all that. And one that I did this week, and which really intrigued me, was I suppose it's twofold. It applies to your classic artists a lot because they complain. And they complain, back in the day. Well, mate, we're not back in the day anymore, and things have moved on and they're not going back in the day. And then you've got the younger artists who'll go, well, it's not fair, I'm getting paid 0.0003 of a cent for each stream. So it got down to, therefore, what is our core product? Now let's talk as a musician, Rob. What is our core product? We used to think our core product was our music. And this is really, and I found it extremely difficult to come to terms with what I'm going to talk about here. Really difficult. And I'm still grappling with it. But to me, it's 100% correct, and we have to move on. So we used to know music. We used to hear the music on the radio, MTV, etc. So now let's talk 70s and 80s and even 90s. We went to a music store and we bought the product, which was music.
Yes.
The promotion, let's use radio, TV, and whatever, was promoting your music, Rob. And for me to get that music, I went to the music store to buy it. So your core product as Rob Boundy was your music.
Yes.
Okay. All right, straightforward. So how are people exposed to music today? Well, through a variety of mediums, radio, YouTube, Spotify. Artists are saying, why is my music no longer making me money?
I think, can I just say something there?
Absolutely.
And I've noted it from several different top musicians, Ian Pace coming to mind, the drummer from Deep Purple, that the way people listen to music now is completely different. And us as artists have to accept that fact that the attention span of the listener now is completely different to what it used to be back in the day. And I think that's a big issue that causes musicians a lot of grief because people don't want to listen, they want to swipe. But I'll bring up a point that Ted Goya made, one of Rick Beato's associates, about we're being programmed with swipes on our phone and all the different social media things that we delve into. We're being programmed to make that attention span shorter and shorter and shorter. And the reason behind that is they make more money the more swipes you do. Now, that all comes back to attention span, and when you listen to music, you no longer have the attention span to concentrate on anything that's 10, 15, 20 seconds, let alone a 3-minute song or, a 70-minute album. So that's a concern, and I think we need to look at that. And I don't know whether we can even undo it or how do we address it. That's the big question.
I agree with exactly what you've said. I think there is no way of undoing it. We're just moving forward at a rate of knots. There is no undoing anything going backwards.
Yeah, but even that, Goya makes a point that all the majors and all the big industry are dropping it like hotcakes as well because they're concerned about what's coming up. Entire businesses are unplugging from the web because software upgrades are getting too risky to implement, incompatibility issues are frequent and can put the entire business at risk. Now, that's happening everywhere at the moment. So I think we've got to be...
Well, I disagree with that part. Is that we live in a digital world, and unfortunately, as much as I agree with the point that, you don't really want to do all the updates and everything because everything's risky, you have no choice because you've got the products you're using and therefore you have to stick to it. So if you don't do your updates on Windows, you don't have the security updates, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah, but there's another point there. Software disenchantment is widespread in plenty of areas in the face of growing evidence that programs are getting bloated and more inefficient. How slow are our computers now?
I don't disagree with that either at all. And I'll give you the other side of that is I agree with it. So what did I do? I just bought an i9 and it runs a bat out of hell. But the problem is it costs a fortune. So,
yes, it does.
And next year, your Windows 10 machines after October won't be supported by Windows. So therefore, all your Windows 10 machines that can't be upgraded to Windows 11, and that's probably 80% of them, will be redundant. It's crazy, isn't it? It's a crazy feeling. I don't feel good about that, but I've moved now to Windows 11 and, the old Windows 10 machines, well, they'll have to go to the recycle station October next year.
I've got a Mac, but I've also got a PC and I run all my music software on that. I can't upgrade that to an 11.
Yeah. So
I'm going to have to go through all of that nightmare of upgrading all of my music software.
Well, let me continue here.
Yes.
So how are people exposed to music? Artists are saying, why aren't we making money? Well, because they are still thinking that their music is still their core product. And I know that you are going to disagree with me on that. Come on, disagree with me, Rob, because I know you will.
Well, why? What's the alternative? What is our core product?
Well, Well, as I said earlier, our core product was always the music back in the 70s, 80s and 90s because we went out to buy it. We don't buy it anymore, and I'll get to that now. And I'll say, why is this so? If you remember the professor on the ABC.
Mm-hmm.
Because they've already brought it. The average consumer of music, and I'm one of those, Rob. I say Spotify, I bought it because I subscribe to Spotify or I subscribe to Apple and if I haven't paid the premium, I've taken the free version, which I then accept the advertising. And so you're still paying for it because you're having to listen to all those ads. So there is this is a new way of thinking. So I've already bought the music because let's use the premium subscription to Spotify, all right?
Okay.
I've already bought it. I subscribe to Spotify, Rob. I've paid for it. I really am grappling with this enormously, right?
Yeah.
But I've paid for it. Yeah. I shouldn't have to pay again. I shouldn't have to pay the artist any more money. And so, and this is running at a rate of knots. So we still need to be on platforms. So if you disagree with that and go, well, yeah, but I don't make any money off that subscription, and unless I'm Beyonce or Rihanna or Taylor Swift, I'm in the bottom run of those 1,000 streams or less. So Spotify don't pay me; they make money out of me for themselves. But if I'm an artist, I essentially still need to be on the platforms to be discovered. So my discovery is being on everything. Literally anything you can get your hands on, you should be on to be discovered, even though they pay very little. I still need to be there. So I've got this conundrum. Why are we being paid so little? Well, why is that the case again? And there was another answer to this, and it's so obvious. There's too much supply of music. So if we go back to 1980 and there was 20,000 new singles released a week, let's say, for example, around the world.
Yep.
So today, just on Spotify alone, we have 100,000 new tracks up every day.
Yeah, I mentioned that a few weeks ago.
Yeah, exactly, you did.
Yeah.
100,000 a day. So we've got oversupply. Therefore, in normal economics, the price goes down because there's too much. So people don't have the time to listen to all this new music. They simply don't have human time to sit there and listen to it. And how do they even discover it? One of the biggest things I find on Spotify for me is that the discovery through release radar, when it knows my style of music, is phenomenal. What I get and go, I've never heard of this band. They're only getting 420 listeners a month or 2,000 listeners a month, and they're, say, out of the States. And you kind of go, they sound awesome. But how would I ever discover them? How would I ever find out about them? So people don't have the time. We wish we wish we have the independent control. So we've got the independent control now, but with the economics, but without the economics that we had in the 70s, 80s or 90s. So in the 70s, 80s or 90s, you didn't have, even as an independent, you didn't really have control.
Yeah.
So we wish what we've got is now back in the 80s we as an independent you didn't have a lot of control, not really. You had the Saints who did well, and there'd always be a breakout band, but your general down the street garage band, independent band was basically going to find it so difficult to do anything. You had to manufacture, how could you do that, and whatever. So we had lack of control, but great economics. So the economics was really good. If you started to do well, you made a lot of money. Now we've got the complete opposite. We have control as an independent artist, but we don't have the economics that we had back then. It's been a complete swap around. Does that make sense? I mean, do you agree with that?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I've read so many articles, watched so many interviews with musicians talking about that. And it's a concern because even those top shelf musicians are having issues with it because they are getting swamped and their work's not getting through. So therefore their work is drying up because it's not selling like it used to.
Yeah.
And I think that's a concern as well, you know. Or is it a good thing? It's just a reboot for everybody's way of thinking where everyone has to work out, you know, necessity is the mother of invention, you know.
Yeah.
So everyone's working out how they can survive at the moment. It's a real struggle. And, you know, the behemoth of Spotify is still, you know, it's being challenged by AI. That's a whole other conversation as well.
Well, being challenged to a point. You and me have spoken about this. We think that Spotify are utilising AI to make more money.
Yeah.
By putting up tracks that are AI generated, not owned by anybody but by them.
Yeah, absolutely. That's entirely what they're doing.
Yeah. So, you know, I don't know that they're seeing so much of a challenge, but there must be some challenge. Anyway, I go on. The world today, music is not core. So as an artist, your music is not your core product. Merchandise and other products are the core. Now, if I go back to the 80s specifically and 90s, and when I had an interest in, the biggest merchandise business with Michael in the country, and, you know, we looked at where we were then, merchandise was always considered secondary. You could make some good money out of it, but it wasn't your prime core. Your core was your music, and then came the merchandise. So what they're saying now is that the merchandise and other products are the core, and you're building a brand. So are you building the brand on the T-shirt or on other ancillary products? So here's an example. A band in America I think they're called Cane Hill, right?
Okay.
They're a stoner rock band, and they would say in their last tour last year, they would say, we want you to all buy our merchandise. Now, usually that's a red rag to a bull to go, we're not buying it then, right? But they used to say, we need you to buy our merchandise because it helps us buy our weed. What they were selling is your normal products, but their biggest selling item was a weed grinder. That was their biggest selling item on that tour. Now, remember, in there you can do 50 dates, tour dates there. And they made a humongous amount of money.
What is that, a mulling machine? That you
you put your weed in it and it grinds it. So, you know, it grinds it like tobacco. And, you know, and then they were talking about things like, well, what else could we sell that was in relation to that, such a good seller? A tray, because you then have a weed tray. I mean, it's sensational, isn't it?
Oh, it is, but I think it's, you know. But I'm not even going down that path.
Well, no, you know, forget that, you know, I'm not sure marijuana should be made illegal because why is booze not illegal? So we have a brand. How do we create the brand that aligns to you as a musician? So, you know, the real questions posed. You know, if you're selling a CD at your show, so say you're still making CDs.
Yeah.
And we know today.
A lot of people are.
Yeah, well, yes, I think, but that'll all be gone shortly. That's my opinion. Is that?
You think?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's, you know, it's only a year or two away and they'll be disappearing. So, but say I'm selling my CD today and new cars don't have CD players. No, laptops don't have CD players.
Not anymore.
Desktops definitely don't have CD players anymore. And who has a CD player in their home? Not a lot of people. So
I've got one right in front of me.
Yeah, but, you know, you're a
Pioneer. I've got my Pioneer PD 4500 right in front of me.
Yeah, you're a back in the day man.
And it's just under my Yamaha MT44D multi-track 4-track recorder.
Well, funnily enough, I've got about 4 CD players anyway. Let's not go.
I know.
Yeah. So we, the CD player is a thing of the past. But I'm selling a CD at my gig, and what I'm going to do too is I'm going to sign that CD, because you know how people love their CDs at a show signed.
I know. I've just been asked for some this week.
Well, there you go. So if you're selling a CD at your show and you signed it, then the product is the CD as a memorabilia item, because we just said that it's going to be pretty difficult to play that CD. So why would I buy that CD? Well, I can open it up, I can read it, and it's got your signature on it. It's a piece of memorabilia. And to me, that makes total sense.
It is, yeah. I mean, it's funny because I come from the other end. I remember when we pressed the album and we had a conversation about making CDs instead of vinyl, and we went, no, we'll make vinyl because not everyone's got CD players. Not everyone can afford CD players, and CDs haven't taken off, so that's why we printed vinyl. But now we're having a reverse conversation. It's quite strange in a matter of 30, 40 years.
Absolutely. So what can we sell your fans? Something that how can we sell our fans something they were going to buy anyway? So why would they buy yours? So what
are you going to sell them?
Well, I could give you some great examples. I'll actually give you. I'll give you an example. A couple of examples. So Taylor Swift. So I did the Taylor Swift tour. This would be 12 years ago, maybe 13. And we're doing, I think, 6 shows at Rod Laver, similarly 5 in Sydney and whatever. And I was doing the merchandise. So we weren't doing the tour, but we were doing the merch. Anyway, at the end of the tour, the merch director came up to me and said, I just had a chat with Taylor Swift and her dad, and, we didn't make any money on this tour. So they had the big entourage, and the trucks and everything. Didn't make any money on tour. The only profit we made was the merchandise profit. And we were stoked at the figure, which I can't mention, but it was big. And I mean big. Biggest we'd ever made profit-wise for an artist. And it was, they felt, due to the range of products that she'd put in there that were not so related to the music, but to the name Taylor Swift. So, whether it was tea towels, bath towels, and everything else that went there. The CD was, and CDs were still kind of happening back then, but the CD wasn't a big seller at that show. Now, another one, which is not as much music related, and it was the Titanic exhibition. It wasn't music, obviously, but what had happened was we brought that exhibition to Melbourne, and they'd really never done big merch at the museum. And we sat down and had to think about it, and I said, let's go ballistic and put anything and everything we can that relates to the 1920s, for example, for sale. So we made jewellery, there was some costumes, there was just so much stuff. It was so successful, it blew me away that it was, the products that we were selling, it wasn't so much the exhibition itself. And the exhibition we would correlate to music itself, right? And we made far more money with the merchandise in that case. But the Taylor Swift was another one. I could give you multiple, U2, we used to diverge away. We started diverging, probably a good 12 years ago, diverging away from the core products you would sell at the merch desk, which would be the T-shirt or the CD or, music. And it would verge to so many things that were non-related to the music in the sense they were related to the product, which is the artist, not the music. So it's one thing that they kind of said too was that as musicians, we're adopting the tag of an entrepreneur as the musician. So as much as it was about the music in the 70s, 80s or 90s, what we are doing today is the musician is becoming an entrepreneur because they're thinking outside of the square that my core product isn't the music anymore that I love so much. It is everything else around it that will make me the money, and my music becomes my marketing tool. Now, that statement there I've used for about 8 years in Laneway Music to artists of a heritage nature, where I say, we are not going to break you as an artist at the age bracket that you're in, but you can get to your core audience, and we can also use, or you can use, the streams that we get online as a marketing tool for your live shows. And that has happened on so many of our artists, it's not funny. So let's use Mike Rudd, for example. Mike Rudd didn't have anything up online really. I think he might have had one thing up, one album. Yeah. And we then got up another 20 albums of his. We then marketed those albums for 12 months. Mike Rudd was under no misapprehension that we were going to break him again as an artist of the 70s. But I said to him, let's utilise all this marketing, money and time that we're spending to build your profile up and get some live shows happening. And after 12 months, we went out and we did some sold-out shows back then at the Caravan Club in Oakley, in Melbourne. And it worked a treat, and it has worked for him ever since he's gone out to do sold-out shows. Now, he might only do 3 or 4 shows a year because he can't sustain more than that, but because he doesn't put out new music either. But it has worked a treat. And that applied to the Celebrate Rifles also, and it applied to a number of our other artists. So, therefore, what they're saying is now, and I'm still to get my head across this, Rob, is that our music is not our core product. Our core product is us, the musician, and what we sell around that. And the music becomes your marketing tool to sell all of that, because you are now an entrepreneur, and an entrepreneur thinks of other ways of how to generate their income around the products that they have available to them.
Sure, yeah.
So that's what I wanted to go over today. And I'm still, as I said, finding it difficult to comprehend all this. But you being a doctorate of music, and I would think this would just, you're either across it all or you're going to be across it all, and the change is just a phenomenal change. What do you think of it?
It's hard, as you said, it's very hard to get your head around. And as I bring everything back to what I do on a day-to-day basis, it's a matter of trying to be across all the socials. And as you said earlier on in today's Laneway Talks, about watching tutorials. I was watching a YouTube tutorial last night on how to get more subscribers to your channel.
Yep.
Because for me, it's a whole new way of looking at things. I talk to a lot of people. I do a lot of work across all of my socials as well. And it's starting to work, but even getting your head around YouTube. If you're going to start a YouTube channel, you need to start with 5 videos, not one, and then YouTube actually sees you as being valid. So you've got to be across all these different platforms criteria and understand how they work to even get in the game. And that's difficult. Like if I've just been doing shorts. I put up another short last night and I had 600 views overnight. To me, that's outstanding. I put it up yesterday afternoon and I had a look this morning and it's up to like nearly 600 views. I've gone,
is that a drumming? Is that a drumming or is it a Virgin Soldiers?
Yeah. No, it's a Virgin Soldiers song. I transcribed it. It's in my book. So what I try and do is link all my work together.
Yep.
So it's on YouTube. It's transcribed in my book. It's on the live album that you so graciously recorded for us back in 2019.
Yep.
And it's the opening track to Make a Change, and it's called The Thing. But I've filmed myself recording it in my studio here at home. And I'm playing on my wonderful Neil Peart R40 snare drum. And it sounds amazing. And I love the production value in that too. So I'm really into what sounds I can get myself, within my own studio. So that's another important aspect. But I think you've got to be across all of these things, the social media, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all of those things takes up a lot of time to have content out there, but that's what you need to do, as you say, as an entrepreneur, to be able to promote yourself as an artist, as well as try and keep motivated to have new music coming out, or even promoting your old music,
Yeah.
That's a very time-consuming job.
Absolutely. And, and as I say, to get your head across new techniques or the new frontiers that are approaching us is difficult with time, but difficult mentally to get your head across it and go, well, hold on, I sit here, let's now go to the musician, Rob Bounty, the musician. The time that I sit here and spend on writing that song, that is my core product. I'm still grappling with getting past that. That's not your core product, that's your marketing tool to get to your core product, which is, let's say in your sense, it is the drum tutorials, or the drum lessons, or the drum books that you're selling. And so the music is simply an avenue to sell those. So you're an entrepreneur in that area. But if you spend a week writing the song, isn't that your core product?
Yeah, the perspective of all of those things, as I'd say probably each week, I view it from a completely different stance, because I'm continually working on music that I've created in multiple mediums, whether it be in sheet music, whether it be in books, whether it be in blogs, whether it be in filming. And, I have a look at what I've got registered on APRA as far as songs go. I've got like 55 songs up there, In some artist's career, that's not a lot, but in some artist's career it is, It's across 55 songs to be able to go back and analyse and understand and then demonstrate those, because my teaching is out of what I do as a musician. It's not something I've made up and read from a book, somebody else's book. I'm writing my own book.
Just say that again. My teaching is from my music.
Yes,
right.
Absolutely.
But are we saying therefore the music is the core product, or the teaching is the core product?
Well, in that instance,
have to be the teaching, wouldn't it? The teaching.
The teaching is, but what I'm teaching is how I created the music.
I know, that's
that I play.
I get it. I see, and so they're right in what they're saying, because what you just said, if I analyse that, you're saying exactly what they're saying. The music is an avenue to the teaching, and it's an important part, but it's not the core part, because I don't make money from the actual song itself. I make money from everything that's linked to that song.
I make money from teaching how to play the song, or what I did to create the song, or my approach to be able to have the ability to write music. Because teaching is my biggest form of income.
So I get. So right now, I'm getting that. I'm still struggling with it, Rob.
Yeah.
I'm still struggling with
it. It's complicated.
Yeah, to change my mind or my thought structures on a day-by-day basis, because think about what we're doing at Laneway Music. We are marketing music, aren't we?
You are.
Yeah, I don't market the artist as much, because I'm not their manager, and a lot of them don't even play live. So it's a real tough one for me. But then I might say, well, how the hell did we get to 43,000 subscribers on YouTube and 31,000 on Facebook? It blows my mind then.
Can I have 10% of your subscribers?
Yeah, well, Rob, but, that blows my mind, because therefore, what am I selling to attract them? What am I selling them to attract them? I've got to really work that out. Is it the music, or what is it? Or is it the ancillary discovery around it about discussions on the music? I don't know.
That's a good point.
Isn't it? It's mind-boggling. I mean, just mind-boggling. And I would suggest to you that even the, what I call guys like you, doctors, educators, or what would academics. I'm not sure academics have written about this in huge amounts, because is it moving too quickly? Because if I could get a book on this, I'd be reading this now and probably cutting it to pieces with my opinions and whatever, but I'm not sure because I think it's all just too new and moving too quickly.
Yeah, there is a lot of information out there on just always.
I agree, information. I agree. There's a lot of info out there on it.
But I'm talking about studies as well and journal writings about all of these things. I was been corresponding with Simon Frith from the University of Edinburgh. He's a professor and of great ilk in the United Kingdom, and he talks about the difference between how you market music and how you produce music and the two streams of thought and how they can clash and have different ideologies. So, there's several studies on that, and that's exactly what you're talking about.
Exactly. That clash is it, isn't it?
Yeah. And there's lots of studies done on that, so there's 2 points of view that are relevant to be able to understand, to be able to move forward with that. And he talks about lots of really interesting topics about, record companies keep control of their taste and the public's taste through their marketing strategies, their organisation of sales charts, their star-making machinery. Live music venues, by contrast, have to host a variety of musical events to gather a variety of overlapping local audiences, sometimes in the same place at the same time, as in music festivals.
Yeah.
Early career musicians learn their performing skills in local scenes with local mentors, for whom genre labels are essentially fluid. And that's what you're talking about as well. For almost all performing musicians, income comes initially from selling music services rather than from writing or recording royalties.
Exactly.
This remains true for most working musicians throughout their careers. Now, that's from Simon Frith's Accidents, Obstacles and Opportunities journal paper. Exactly what you're talking about.
Well, yes, I still go back to the 70s and 80s and say our core product back then was simply the music, because I got you to listen to it on the radio or watch it on MTV, and then you went down to the record store and you sorted out and bought it. So
it seemed simpler then, but there was still the overarching marketing and creative side of things. Now I think it's a bit more transparent because of the sheets being pulled off, because everyone's, fight for themselves now, isn't it? It's not kept by...
Well, Rob, when you used to go to the vinyl store,
record shop,
would you be... I used to go there and the album cover could sometimes convince me to buy the album. Now, does that apply today? One thing that you get driven down your throats with YouTube and with Meta now is that the thumbnail is more important than the actual product or the video in there that you're...
Well, it's a first point of contact, isn't it?
Yeah, so we have got it in another way, haven't we?
We have, yeah.
Because it's the same thing. Would I click on that? If it looks naff, I won't do it. So,
that's the art, isn't it? That captures you, draws you into, there's sound behind this. Yeah.
Well, was it a picture of the band and I thought they look like a hard rock band? I reckon they could sound okay. I'll take a risk and buy it.
Yeah. So, for me, the Kiss's first 4 albums, like
fantastic,
Kiss, Dressed to Kill, Hotter Than Hell, and Alive.
Yeah.
I just stood in the record shop looking at those on the wall going,
I'm the same.
Oh, my God, who is this? I've got to listen to what is inside of that artwork,
Think of that first album. Think of the first one. Did you used to sit there and look at that first album and the clarity of their faces and go, what the hell is this?
Yeah, absolutely. Because you never saw them.
Yeah.
You never really saw them on telly. I mean, I think, I don't know, the year that Countdown first had Kiss on, that was like a monumental moment, because you go, wow, this is these guys, and they are really like that. They had an image in your head and what you'd heard from the albums. And then I went and saw them live, and they were just outstanding.
And what did you do? You went to the record store, you worked in the record store, you went to the record store and you bought their music, their core product.
Yeah.
But I suppose they were the early ones that then started that merch, and they were the ones that really started them, with the Kiss Army and whatever. But again, we still went to buy their core product, the album,
Yeah.
I think I joined the Kiss Army. Anyway, that's what have you got? What have you got for this week, Rob?
Well, I think we've kind of touched on a lot of it. I've got a whole list of things here, but I reckon we're sort of out of time.
Something I wanted to bring up too in the following weeks too is a topic on can the older musician still have success?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so that's another one, but that might be 2 or 3 weeks away. So All right, well, we'll get to your other points next week. Yes, I went too long, but I still think when I was doing this tutorial, how it was intertwining with a lot of stuff that you've spoken to me about.
Yeah.
And why the musician wasn't making money.
Yeah, because it's a different avenue that you have to access now. So, but it's tiresome having to learn all this new stuff.
Oh, it is.
When you've been doing it for your whole life and you go, oh my God, there's still, it's exciting, there's still more to learn, there's challenges, that's great, but it can be tiresome.
I think just as we log off, I think there with that, you go, it's tiresome, right? Now, you and me do it because we need to generate revenue to survive. And so you're very fixated, you've got to be so onto it. I think if you were in our position right now and you're 20 and it's hit and miss, I'll give it a crack, whatever. Will I do it day? And I say this honestly, it's the 1 in 1,000 that I see in musicians or bands that can actually apply what we're talking about here and have consistency of let's use social media or marketing to get to their end product, whereas the younger ones trial it and then it just banters off very quickly and they don't have the consistency. Now, the ones that do are the successful ones. Anyway.
That's a age-old formula, isn't it? It's consistency and persistence.
Yeah, absolutely.
To get a result. Yeah, I just wanted to say quickly, there's another new venue here in Adelaide called Ginger's Vintage Lounge Bar, which is on Gould Road around the corner from Derringer's.
I did read something about that too somewhere, yeah.
Yeah, a good friend of mine, Stuart Day, that I've played with in lots of bands. There's 4 singer-songwriters there playing on the weekend. So that's another newie for Adelaide, which is good. So a shout-out to Ginger's Vintage Lounge Bar. It's a gig that's on, I think, this weekend. And it's got 4 singer-songwriters. Paula Standing, Stuart Day, Tim Moore, and Alana Jag. It's on Friday the 9th this week. So
that's fantastic. Goes to show you, live music, I think. I personally think live music has a little bit of a revival happening because people want that in-your-face type thing. It might be overload on digital or, all online. Yeah. And I said it last week when I went to a gig here that it blew me away within half a kilometre, 4 venues which were pumping.
Yeah, when I listened to that on the weekend, it's great. But, Melbourne's always had that vibe. It's always had that nightlife, which is good. I'm glad it's still going. That's great.
We will talk to you next week, mate. It's been a pleasure.
No worries, Vince.
See you later.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
And there it is, another Laneway Talks.